The moment the security guard pressed the delete key on Amazon's servers, he had no idea that he held in his hands the fate of the world's richest man. But this story starts earlier with 8 hours of sleep and a golden sunset in Maui. Those were Jeff Bezos' words. In one of his most reflective interviews, he spoke about balance, priorities, and the sacred value of rest, about the peace he carved out in a life full of chaos. Who could have guessed those words would soon feel so painfully ironic? Just months later, Bezos' legendary discipline, the early 5 a.m. wake-ups, the daily meditation, the flawless schedule mapped down to the minute, the very system that built one of the greatest empires on Earth would begin to crumble when the human factor entered the picture. Only weeks ago, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez stood high above the cliffs of Maui, vowing eternal love. The sunset washed gold across the ocean, framing them in a picture so perfect it could have been scripted. The world hailed it as the wedding of the decade, a billionaire fantasy come to life. Hollywood stars, tech moguls, political powerhouses, all gathered to witness the Amazon founder marry a stunning former TV personality. Every frame from that day screamed power, elegance, and a love story too flawless to fail. But history never lies. The shinier the facade, the deeper the cracks beneath it. Even fairy tales rot when the lights go out. And now that glittering image is unraveling into a scandal capable of shaking not just Bezos' private life, but the very foundation of his empire. Guests recall subtle moments they brushed off at the time. Lauren lingering too long with an Amazon executive, her wandering gaze when Bezos addressed investors, the restless glances at her phone even during the vows. Back then, it was dismissed as nerves. Now, they look more like the first cracks in a fragile wall. Whispers grew louder. Insiders claimed Lauren, long branded a gold digger circling the powerful, had been secretly tied to a senior Amazon executive. And not just any executive. This man, cloaked in mystery, was described as a razor-sharp strategist, a shadow player with immense pull inside Seattle's corporate world. We'll call him M. At just 42, he commanded one of Amazon's most critical divisions, reporting directly to Bezos himself. His 38th floor office, all glass walls and sweeping city views, was more than a workspace. It was a symbol of ambition and dominance. And it was there the whispers pointed. Lauren's frequent, unexplained visits to the Amazon Tower. Witnesses say it all began with a heated argument. Not only about Lauren's extravagant spending or private jet indulgences, but about something deeper: control, boundaries. Who set the rules in their marriage? That very day in Seattle, Bezos headed into a pivotal board meeting while Lauren stayed behind. Her official schedule? A meeting with PR staff to polish her image as the CEO's wife. But plans changed. In the elevator, she ran into him. A smile. A pause. Minutes later, the two were seated together in the exclusive 37th floor lounge. Wine in hand, leaning closer, their polite exchange soon turned personal. M confided the crushing weight of corporate power, the loneliness of living at the top. Lauren admitted the suffocating reality of being trailed by cameras, her life reduced to headlines and expectations. In that vulnerability, they connected. For a moment, they weren't CEO and billionaire bride, just two weary souls searching for relief. And hours later, a blurry security camera allegedly captured the spark that crossed the line. Inside M's glass-walled office, it wasn't a casual stolen kiss. It was the kiss of two people too lost in the moment to think of the fallout, too desperate for comfort to care about tomorrow. But even though the footage was grainy, the damage was already done. Traces remained, and those images, paired with whispers, spread like wildfire through the highest levels of Amazon. The real problem wasn't the blurry video itself, it was whose hands it ended up in. Tom Anderson, a 35-year-old security engineer at Amazon, stumbled across the clips during a routine system audit. At first, he assumed it was just personal material that had nothing to do with company safety, something to delete and forget. But something stopped him. Anderson recognized Lauren Sanchez. He knew M. He knew what kind of influence M carried inside Amazon's empire, and in that instant, he realized the weight of what he'd uncovered. Instead of deleting, Anderson encrypted the clips onto a hard drive, vowing he'd never use them unless forced to. That decision would change everything. Soon, the leaks began circulating within the inner circle of power. The same people who toasted Jeff and Lauren under the Maui sunset now whispered behind closed doors, urging Bezos to end the marriage. They warned that Lauren's alleged betrayal could stain his legacy beyond repair. But the truth was far messier. One of the first calls Jeff received came from Marcus Stein, an old friend and heavyweight Silicon Valley investor. "Jeff, I've known you for 2 decades," Marcus told him. "You've always been in control. Don't let a woman destroy everything you've built." But Bezos' answer caught him off guard. "Marcus, what if it's not her? What if the problem is me?" A rare admission of weakness from a man the world knew only for cold precision and dominance. Behind the dreamy Maui spectacle, the $2 million beachfront villa turned into a Hollywood-like set. Flowers flown in from the Netherlands, Ecuador, and New Zealand, the elite guest list featuring Oscar winners, Fortune 500 CEOs, royal family members, even Leonardo DiCaprio and Oprah. Cracks had already begun to form. The ceremony dazzled. Candlelight glistened off Venetian glass tables. Vintage 96, Dom Perignon, flowed endlessly. Lauren glowed in a $450,000 Valentino gown, striding through a hallway blanketed in orchids and roses. Bezos looked untouchable in his custom Armani tux. For one brief night, the world believed their love story was untouchable too. But insiders whispered otherwise. Jeff's infamous obsession with detail clashed with Lauren's casual remarks about shopping sprees and impulsive trips. Friends noticed their playful conversations sliding into tense silences, small competitions instead of sweet exchanges. And whenever money came up, Lauren's outlook, shaped by years of luxury but never by limitless wealth, collided with Jeff's meticulous mindset. Still, they worked overtime to protect their image. Sailing on the $500 million Flying Fox yacht, posing at the Met Gala, striding Cannes red carpets, always presenting unity. But away from the flashbulbs, the fractures widened. Lauren basked in attention and her spending spiraled. Bezos, haunted by the brutal headlines from his divorce with Mackenzie Scott, a split that cost him $38 billion, now obsessed over controlling every narrative. His reputation had become more valuable than any asset, and every story about Lauren's excesses felt like a ticking bomb. By the time they returned from their honeymoon, settling into the $165 million Beverly Hills mansion and their penthouse in Seattle, those fractures were no longer invisible. When Jeff and Lauren walked into Amazon HQ one cold winter morning, it wasn't just another arrival. For Bezos, it was a staged moment, proof that his new wife could seamlessly fit into the empire he had built. But witnesses say the tension was already boiling. A sharp argument over Lauren's use of the company's Gulfstream GC50 ER for a Swiss vacation left Bezos stone-faced, while Lauren bristled with visible frustration. And as they crossed the Amazon Sphere's glass atrium, their smiles seemed polished but hollow. Bezos, locked into a grueling 3-day AI board meeting, vanished into work. Lauren, left behind, leaned on her assistant, and the distance between them widened. But then, fate takes an unexpected turn. At the panoramic window on the first floor, Lauren's eyes land on M. A greeting. A pause. Moments later, she's spotted in his executive lounge. Yu Mim, the sharp, magnetic head of Amazon's strategic partnerships, has a reputation for making anyone feel safe in his presence. Over coffee, their small talk shifts. At first, it's polite questions about adjusting to the tech world. But slowly, the conversation cuts deeper. M admits to the crushing isolation at the top of Amazon's power pyramid. "It's hard to find anyone who understands the weight I carry," he tells her. Lauren, in turn, confesses that life as the wife of one of the world's most scrutinized men feels like living inside a cage. Laughter echoes down the hallway. Employees notice Lauren's hand lightly brush against M's arm. A fleeting gesture, but in a glass tower where every move is analyzed, it speaks volumes. That evening, while Bezos was buried in a marathon AWS presentation, Lauren and M were allegedly seen entering his sleek corner office overlooking Elliott Bay. What happened behind those glass walls? That question is still the subject of heated whispers, and even legal probes. Some claim the line between professionalism and intimacy was crossed. Others argue the blurry security footage captured nothing more than two lonely souls sharing a vulnerable moment. Regardless, the whispers spread like wildfire. Within hours, coded texts and discreet conversations made their way through the upper echelons of Amazon. By morning, Bezos's closest allies had already heard the rumors, backed by shadowy images meant to prove the affair. Tom Anderson, the security engineer who discovered the footage, now stood at the center of an ethical storm. His contract strictly forbade him from leaking personal information. Yet deleting the evidence felt equally dangerous. This wasn't just gossip, it was potential corporate warfare. As the days passed, Amazon's atmosphere thickened. Conversations dropped to hushed tones. Eyes lingered longer than usual. What had started as hallway whispers was now backed by something far more explosive: digital proof. Sources claimed a select group of security staff had seen the grainy tape. Video 92, shot through glass, its audio muffled but its implications damning. Alongside the footage, still images circulated among senior execs. Some were from the surveillance system itself. Others, more damning, were snapped by late-night employees peering through glass walls with their phones. The effect? A spark to dry kindling. Opinions split down the middle. To some, it was nothing but workplace flirtation, inflated by jealousy and politics. To others, it was betrayal, a scandal too big to ignore. For Bezos, it wasn't just personal. It was a direct challenge to his leadership, his empire. Sources close to him say he wasn't furious. He was shaken. That something so volatile could unfold right inside his fortress raised the question: had he lost control? M, now at the eye of the storm, tried to spin the encounter as a harmless chat, blown out of proportion. But when the footage surfaced, his defense crumbled. Forced onto unpaid leave, he scrambled to hire a defense lawyer. By then, the gossip had burst past Amazon's walls, trickling to journalists and ex-employees. Bezos's phone rang non-stop, calls from Malibu to Manhattan. Some friends offered sympathy, others pressed cold, tactical advice. Among them, Bill Gates, who shared his own scars from scandal. Warren Buffett, urging him to protect reputation at all costs. The message was unanimous. Reputations take decades to build, seconds to burn. Act now, or risk the empire. But then came the twist no one saw coming. The fate of Amazon's image didn't lie in Gates or Buffett's hands. It rested with Tom Anderson, the engineer who held the tape. And instead of cashing out with tabloids or selling secrets for millions, Anderson went straight to Bezos. With a full report, he laid out the truth. The video hadn't captured an affair at all. It was misread, manipulated. M had simply been consoling Lauren after a heated argument with Jeff. The kiss on camera? Not passion, but a brief, gentle kiss on the forehead. A gesture of empathy from a man who knew what it meant to suffer quietly after his own bitter divorce. Anderson's investigation uncovered something darker. A senior executive, the president of corporate relations, had stoked the fire, leaking footage and twisting narratives to sabotage M and destabilize Bezos' inner circle. When the truth surfaced, Bezos realized how close he'd come to blowing apart his marriage and his empire over a carefully staged illusion. M's name was cleared, his professionalism rewarded with a promotion. Lauren received a rare, heartfelt apology from Bezos, rebuilding fragile trust. And Tom Anderson, the man who risked everything to guard the truth, was rewarded with a leadership role in Amazon's new ethics and security division. The scandal that nearly shattered the empire ended up exposing something else entirely: the power of perception, and how quickly it can be weaponized. The real villain, the vice president who engineered the smear campaign, was swiftly fired and buried under lawsuits for defamation and corporate misconduct. The scandal proved a brutal reminder that in a world of billionaires and global empires, human values still matter most: trust, honesty, and the courage to stand up for truth. For Bezos, the lesson was profound. True power wasn't about micromanaging every detail. It was about knowing who to trust and making the toughest calls when the storm hit. Together, Jeff and Lauren turned crisis into opportunity. They rebuilt trust, set new rules for communication, and finally learned how to back each other fully. Wem wasn't just cleared of wrongdoing, he became one of their closest allies. His journey through sobriety inspired Amazon to build new protocols to support employees facing personal battles. And Bezos, even his 8 hours of sleep took on a deeper meaning. No longer just a habit, it became a sacred ritual, a time to reflect and regain perspective in a world where truth can be buried beneath noise and manipulation. So when Tom Anderson finally hit delete on Amazon servers, he wasn't erasing a crime, he was erasing lies. He kept the real record safe, proof of his innocence, and a reminder that even in the cutthroat world of business, honesty and courage can outlast lies and envy. If you found this story powerful, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the secrets the powerful want buried are the very ones we'll uncover next.